Hi everyone, I am J. Chandran J, Assistant Professor in Mechanical Department from Emmanuel Edessar JJ College of Engineering, Nattalam. Now I am teaching about the subject Industrial Management. Here I am taking Unit 2, Functions of Management, Part 1. So this chapter includes planning, organizing, characteristics, nature, importance, steps and limitation, planning premises, strategic planning, vision and mission, organizing theory, principles and its types. These are the brief contents included in this unit 2, that is functions of management. Coming to the management functions overview, a planning means deciding what is to be achieved and how. This is the planning. So planning is very much important in all sectors due to the future means of output. So a planning is very much important to decide what is to be achieved and how. So next one is organizing. Organizing means arranging people and resources to execute plans. This is a brief note, so we can understand very much clearly about the measurement functions of an overview like that. The planning is one, the second one is organizing, the third one is leading and or directing. So leads means guiding or guidance. So guiding, motivating and communicating. This is the leading means. So a guidance, a motivation and a communication is very much important in the management sector, or all the management function needs these three types of points should remember in all the aspects of the management functions. So the final one is controlling. Controlling means measuring performance and correcting deviations. So controlling or a leadership is very much important in the management sector. So all the management is controlled by a leadership quality. So leadership quality is very much important to handle the subordinates or workers or employees to do the work on a specific time period, to get the required output, to finalize the planning process. So the planning process is required from a beginners to ending. The plan must be added to our day-to-day life to get the accurate means of output. On example like that, a study, a planning is required. To a place is to be visited, a plan is required. For the examination purpose or a competitive exam, a planning is needed to complete the syllabus according to the specific time period to get the more marks or to pass the examination. So this is an example, simple example, like the management functions. We can do that in the planning, organizing, leading or directing and the controlling. Coming to the planning, the meaning and the characteristics of planning is the planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do it, when to do it and who should do it. So the planning is the whole process. We can do what to do in advance is the first point. What to do in advance, how to do it, how to process it, when to do it and who should do it. These are the planning processes to obtain the different output values to get the process done smoothly. So goal oriented and future focused means of planning is required in the management sector, and the continuous systematic and dynamic planning are needed. These are the three important types of planning, that means continuous, systematic and dynamic. Involves choice among alternate and requires managerial judgment. The managerial judgment is very much important to lead the company or management due to the rules and regulations or terms and conditions of that particular company or management is very much important. So we have the Indian constitution, how to behave like that in the country India. We should have the points to remember like a command in the constitution or law of the India. So penal code section according to the police department. These are the examples we have to know. The planning is very much important to do the work with a systematic or smooth way in accordance with the limited time period or a guidance from the authorities in the management side. So nature of planning means planning is an intellectual and analytical process. It is a pervasive at all managerial levels. So it is very much pervasive at all managerial level means, so it is based on forecasts, assumptions and available informations. So the available informations to get from the internet. In recent we all know about the AI, like the AI tool like Cloud AI, Gemini, Perplexity, like that. So we gather informations from the source by the internet. We can do the nature of planning to get the data in accordance with the source of information. So simply we can take the information in accordance with the planning. As an input, a prompt is needed to get the required output. That prompt that decision making, that planning is very much important to get the accurate means of output. So the planning must be clearly knowable with the planner. So a planner must get the idea about the output and the input to get the output with the good quality as we need. So it provides a framework for coordinated action. The importance of planning means provides direction and clarity of objectives, reduces uncertainty and prepares the organization for change, improves coordination and resource utilization, creates standards for subsequent control and performance evaluation. So the importance of planning includes the all planning sectors are finally gathered information, sir. We once again read and execute that planning process in accordance with the planning steps. So the decision making is very much important in the planning process to do the work with limited time period, and the planner who gives the planning process. So a design need a planning. For example, a construction of home or a building need a required design. Design means planning. Planning that particular design of the building or a home or a company or a school or a college. A required architectural work is needed. So we plan first how many rooms are needed, how many classrooms are needed, or how many staircases are needed. So we can do that only by means of planning. Planning is the important process in all sectors from beginner to end overall. So we must plan such a things with the direction and clarity of objectives, and the preparation prepares the organization for change, improves the coordination and resources utilization. That means it creates standards for subsequent control and performance evaluation. So we have to study steps in planning. So steps in planning have the 6 important steps. The first one is define objectives and decide results. The second one is develop planning premises and collect information. The third one is identify alternative courses of action. The fourth one is evaluate alternatives and select the best goals. The fifth one is formulate supporting plans, schedules and budgets. The sixth one is implement, monitor and revise the plan. These are the important 6 basic steps in planning. So the first one is objectives and decide results. First one is to find out the objectives. To define the objectives of a planning is very much important. To collect the data in accordance with that particular planning process, or what we have to done in the final stage, we have to plan from beginning to the end. So the define objectives is the important one. The first step, the define the objectives of particular planning process, what we have to do by means of some particular objectives, and the desired output results. We can do the research work. That example for the research work is an example for planning process. Research work is a planning process. What to do first? Prepare for the entrance examination, the first step. Second one is the eligibility is very much needed before the preparation. PG is essential. PG is mandatory to do the PhD process. So that the PhD is very much important by means of a planning process. Like that, the first step is, I already told, preparation for exam and the interview process. The next one is the doctoral committee, DC member meeting, and the coursework preparation, and the thesis preparation, paper presentation, publication, etc. That the first process, like that, it is from the beginning to the end. A planning must be needed for all the means of management sectors or in our day-to-day life. A planning is very much important to get the required output with the smooth intervention. So the second one is develop planning premises and collect information. Collecting information and the planning premises are very much important as a second step. The third one is identify alternative courses of action. So in case any failure occurs, the alternative courses of action must be identified by means of collecting information in the second step. So the fourth one is evaluate alternatives and select the best one. The best course should be selected in accordance with the alternative courses by means of the previous 3 steps. The final for the fifth step is formulate supporting plans, schedules and budgets. The supporting plans and the budgets are very much important, and for the formulation of supporting plans and the schedules of the budget is very much needed. The initial cost and final cost are needed, and we have to got the how much money is needed, how much financial crises are needed for that particular product or product development or the planning processes, how much investment is needed, how much financial background is needed for the particular form of planning process or planning activities. We need the financial crisis or financial data. The final one is implementation and monitor the whole steps of planning and revise the plan. So the implementation and monitoring is very much important for the planning process, because of implementation of that particular planning activities is very much essential for the customers or the required output parties. That means the output is required for the people who have the demand of particular product or the manufacturing product or the output results. That must be monitored accordingly on the supply and demand of manufacturing products on the planning process. So here I am taking the manufacturing process as an example. So we have to do planning for all the basis of requirements. Step by step planning is needed for all the process we should do on the basis of that particular informations and guidance. Some terms and conditions are included for all aspects of process planning activities. So revise the plan in accordance with the implementation and monitoring of that planning process. The limitations of planning include future conditions cannot be predicted with certainty. Planning can be time consuming and costly. Rigid plans may reduce the flexibility and creativity. Poor information or assumptions can produce ineffective plans. External shocks may make plans obsolete. So these are the limitations or the boundaries of the planning process. Very much important to find out the limitations of planning, to get the required informations, to gather the information correctly with the planning activities we already studied before the slide, before this top limitations of planning. So this much important is very much important for it is the planning process. Planning premises means planning premises are assumptions and forecast about conditions in which plans will operate. The internal premises, external premises, clear premises. These are the clear premises improve consistency and help managers test plan sensitivity. The internal premises means resources, policies, structure, capabilities. External premises means economy, technology, laws, competition, customers. These are the premises, the planning premises, the planning area we should do. The types of planning include strategic planning, tactical planning, operational planning, contingency planning. So strategic planning means the long-term direction and competitive position. Tactical planning means departmental or functional implementation. Operational planning means day-to-day activities and procedures. Contingency planning means alternative actions for unexpected events. So strategic planning determines the organization's long-term direction and major priorities. Typical horizon means the several years depending on industry and organization focuses on environment, capabilities, competitive advantage and major resource commitments. So output may include strategic objectives, policies, initiatives and performance measures. These are the strategic planning we included. So strategic planning process means analyze environment and organizational capabilities, clarify vision, mission and values, set strategic goals and measurable objectives, generate and evaluate strategic alternatives, select strategies, allocate resources and implement. Review results and adapt to changing conditions are the final step of the strategic planning process. Vision statement in planning means vision describes the desired future state of organization. It answers what do we aspire to become. An effective vision is clear, inspiring, memorable and future oriented. Vision aligns people around a common long-term direction. Mission statement in planning means vision explains the organization's fundamental purpose and present business. So we study the industrial management. So industrial side of management is we studied as an example. It answers why do we exist, whom do we serve and what value do we provide. A good mission guides decisions, priorities and stakeholder expectations. That means vision is equal to desired future, mission is equal to present purpose and value. These are the vision and mission differences. The planning key takeaways are the planning establishes objectives and a roadmap for action. Good plans are evidence based but remain flexible. Premises make assumptions explicit. Strategic planning connects purpose, environment, choices and long-term results. Organizing, that means the organizing is the process of identifying work, grouping activities, assigning responsibilities and establishing relationships. It converts plans into a workable structure. Effective organizing clarifies authority, accountability, and coordination. The organizing theory explains classical approaches emphasize division of work, hierarchy, authority, and formal structure. Human relations approaches emphasize people, groups, communication, and motivation. Contingency theory argues that the best structure depends on strategy, environment, technology, and size. Modern organizations often combine formal structures with flexible teams and networks. The principles of organizing includes division of work and specialization, unit of command and clear authority, span of control suited to the work and manager's capacity, coordination among interdependent activities, not independent, interdependent activities. Parity of authority and responsibility, flexibility and simplicity of structure. Types of organization includes line organization, functional organization, line and staff organization, divisional organization, matrix organization. These are the organizations included in the planning sector. Planning and organization integration means these are two are integrated together to form the integration of organizing and planning. Planning defines objectives and the course of action. Organizing builds the structure and assigns resources to execute the plan. Plans determine what capability and combinations are needed. Organizing feedback and reveal whether plans are realistic. Together they establish a foundation for directing and controlling. Finally, the chapter conclusion. Planning provides direction, priorities, and preparedness for the future. Strategic planning connects vision and mission with the long-term choices. Organizing transforms plans into roles, relationships, and coordinated work. Effective managers continually review both the plans and structures as conditions change. For the chapter functions of management, we can conclude this type of conclusion on the whole chapter overview. Thank you.